Without Elvis, there would be no Beatles. While a sensational idea, the sentiment is hardly a sensationalization. On the contrary, it's an undeniable recounting of rock and roll's lineage from the early 1950s to the Beatles' U.S. debut on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1964. Moreover, the notion came from a former Beatle himself, with John Lennon expressing those exact words in a 1980 interview with David Sheff. Elvis's influence was unavoidable and a tangible presence in the Fab Four's earliest music. The relationship between Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, and the Beatles, who began their musical career as his loyal subjects, is a complex one. Growing up in Liverpool, the founding members of the Fab Four took great inspiration from the American rock and roller, who seemed to ooze all things cool, bold, and anti-authoritarian. But by the end of the 1960s, the Beatles had reached such tremendous stardom that they were now in direct competition with their childhood idol. Elvis, by that point in his career's final descent, began denouncing the Fab Four as anti-American hippie enthusiasts. But according to Presley's stepbrother, David S. Stanley, the King still had a soft spot for some of the Beatles' discography. Most notably, Stanley told the Daily Express in a March 2025 interview that his stepbrother loved George Harrison. He thought George was the most prolific writer. He really liked his writing. And indeed, the 4 songs Stanley listed as being his siblings' favorite tracks were almost exclusively penned by the Quiet Beatle. Per Stanley, Elvis' favorite Beatles songs included Something and Here Comes the Sun from Abbey Road, 1969, and If I Needed Someone from Rubber Soul, 1965. The final song on the list of Elvis' favorite Beatles tracks was technically one of John Lennon's, Norwegian Wood from Rubber Soul. However, Harrison played a critical role in that song's distinct sound by contributing the iconic and groundbreaking sitar part. For George Harrison, earning the respect and admiration of Elvis Presley wasn't just validation from a peer. It was an affirmation from one of Harrison's earliest idols, a musician who would ultimately inspire the young Liverpudlian to pick up a guitar of his own. During an interview in his later years, Harrison described the incredible impact Elvis had on him as a teenager, diving into American rock music from across the pond. "I'd never heard anything like it," Harrison recalled. Coming from Liverpool, obviously, we didn't really hear the very early Sun records. The first record I can remember hearing is probably the big hit by the time it got across the Atlantic. It was Heartbreak Hotel, Heartburn Motel as some of us called it.